How's everybody doing today? Great. There we go. That's the energy I'm looking for. All right. Thanks for having me today. Appreciate everybody sticking around. I was a little worried that the crowd might thin out when I heard about that taco truck, but so far it seems like everybody's doing okay. In all seriousness, I'm really excited for the opportunity to speak to everybody here today. Disclaimer, the views expressed here absolutely represent the views and opinions of N2 Security because I own the damn company. So there you go. So this is actually my second B-Sides event. It's my first one in Milwaukee. First B-Sides was B-Sides St. Louis 2023. Shout out to B-Sides St. Louis. If anybody here has been to that one, there we go. So that was actually my first time doing any public speaking not in the office, period. I was talking about a super exciting topic, information security project management that gets everybody on their feet. I was really nervous, and the speaker before me ran 15 minutes over his time, so I had no time to set up, and I had to adjust my entire talk on the fly in real time. Dave from ShowMeCon, I'm still shaking my fist at you. You should have your act together a little bit better. But yeah, super nervous, low-key, maybe high-key if that's a thing, freaking out. I got to my first slide and I tried to use the clicker to move to the next one and it didn't work. Total disaster. Funny part was I was just so nervous I forgot to turn it on. So let's see whether I've got it turned on today. Hey, we do. All right. Anyways, a little bit of housekeeping. Well, actually, before I get to that, so sometimes I struggle a little bit coming up with topics for talks. I've done quite a few since 2023, but I saw the theme this year was grow. I knew exactly what I had to speak about, starting your own business. I put it in the headline here. It's the easiest hard thing that you'll ever do. Has anybody here ever started a business before? Melissa, there you are. Yeah, thank you for raising your hand. I know you have. Awesome. I'm glad I'm not the only one. Anybody currently own a business? Awesome. That's great. Yeah, so like I said, it's the easiest hard thing you'll ever do, meaning it's super, super easy to start a business. You can hop on LegalZoom and 20 minutes later, you have a business. But there's a heck of a lot more to it. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. So now we're to the housekeeping items. So first off, I am not claiming to be the expert in this space. My business is not making millions of dollars. My business isn't even my full-time job right now. I don't have everything figured out. That's what I'm getting at here. I do have a lot of stuff figured out, but there's probably going to be some stuff today that might leave some of you guys thinking, hey, this guy still has a lot to learn, and that's okay because I do still have a lot to learn. But I think that over the last few years, I've already learned a whole lot. And if I can save some of you folks from having to learn the hard lessons that I've learned and dealing with some of the headaches that I've had to deal with by telling these stories, mission successful. Second housekeeping item. Questions, even during the talk, are welcome. Participation is welcome. In fact, this is going to be way more fun if you guys are participating. So you can hoot and holler all you want. You can even give me an amen when I say something really smart. Can I get an amen? Thank you. But seriously, ask questions and let me worry about the time. I've got a timer going up here. I'll get through all my stuff, I promise. So let's think about this like a panel discussion. And we're all on the panel, except I'm the host and I'm the moderator and I'm also the subject matter expert and nobody's asking you guys any questions. So maybe this isn't anything like a panel discussion, but I still want you guys to talk. Trust me, it's going to be super awkward if I'm just standing up here shouting like a lunatic to the whole quiet room. So anyway, let's make sure we're on the same page here. It's going to be a fun presentation. We're going to have lots of participation, right? Right? Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's begin. A little bit about me. And yes, I do have a QR code up here. Sorry. You guys got to make risk-based decisions. No. I live in Bloomington, Illinois with my wife and 3 kids. Lizzie, Charlotte, and Jack. They're 8, 5, and 3, so I'm a busy guy. Anybody know where Bloomington, Illinois is? Hey, look at you guys. This is an awesome crowd. Yeah, I went to ISU. So it's about 3 hours south of here. It's kind of like a suburb, 2 hours outside of the suburbs. I'm very active in the security community. I volunteer at my local STEM academy. I'm a mentor at Kennesaw State University. Previously spoke at several other events like Secure World. Spoke at CypherCon last year. Some of you guys may have seen me there. I spoke at the ISACA IAA GRC conference in Austin back in August. I also host a weekly podcast called Level Up and Lead with Matt Trent from Greenbox U. Matt, I know you're not listening and you're not here, but I'm plugging your company. You're welcome. I do a lot on LinkedIn. I'm probably connected to half of you guys already, and I don't know it. Sorry. I'm really into fishing. Go down to the Ozarks every year and trout fish. I'm probably going to fish in the river here tomorrow. I like Star Trek and Star Wars. You can like both. I like race cars, IndyCar, Formula One, IMSA, WEC. I like sci-fi. I like fantasy reading. I like professional wrestling. I got a Macho Man Randy Savage sweatshirt on today. So I'm the only person that presented today wearing a professional wrestling sweatshirt, I'm pretty sure. Big into video games. I just got done reading Shogun for the second time, and I watched the series, and now I'm playing Ghost of Tsushima because it's kind of like Shogun. And I still have a day job. So besides the fact that I own this company, I also manage the IT governance program at Mutual of Omaha, which is super exciting. It's actually what I talked at CypherCon about last year, IT governance. Prior to that, I was an analyst and a project manager at Country Financial, and then I worked at State Farm for 6 years before that. So anyway, on to the business aspect of things. I am the current co-founder and CEO of N2 Security. We are a full-service cybersecurity firm helping out small and mid-sized businesses, focused on FTC safeguards compliance and NCUA Rule 748. So there's my spiel for that. As of yesterday, I'm also the co-founder of N2 Talent. Very exciting. Previously the founder and principal consultant of Sanguine Security Solutions and the founder and head coach at Sanguine Career Services 4 times. I'll let you guys decide whether being a 4 times founder or 3 times father was more difficult for me. So how did I get started on all this? Well, back in 2012, I had a friend of mine that got a COO job at a trucking company. I made about $160 million a year. He had IT reporting up through him. He didn't know jack about IT. So he asked me, hey, will you come in and let me know how big of an S show this is? Sure, let me go ahead and LegalZoom an LLC real quick, get a tax ID so I can invoice you, and I'm off to the races. And so that's exactly what I did. I started Sanguine Security Solutions, got a tax ID, started billing him, and started making money from technology consulting. Before I knew it, I had other people that I knew in my network that were reaching out to me, asking me if I could help with project management work in the security space. And all of a sudden, I had a security project management business. Who can believe it? So today, I'm here to tell you guys about 10 different things that I wish I would have known before I started any of those businesses. These aren't necessarily in order. I may bounce around a little bit here, but generally speaking, these are ordered pretty well. So we're going to kick it right off with number 1. You're going to have to do it all yourself. So unless you have a partner or money from day one, you're probably going to have to do a lot yourself. And by a lot, I mean pretty much everything. Let me tell you about some of the things that I've done myself over the last few years. First and foremost, I came up with a name for my business 4 times. I formed the business on LegalZoom. I went out and bought the domain. Just a pro tip here, make sure the domain's available before you name the business and before you register it on LegalZoom. That's just forward thinking here. I got a tax ID from the IRS. I registered the business with the state. I got a sales tax license. I went out and sourced insurance. I got to learn all about the difference between general liability and professional liability insurance, and errors and omissions and what's covered, who's not covered. Your 1099 contractors probably aren't covered, but they might be. Who knows? I had to research banking options a whole bunch and then jump through what seemed like weeks worth of hoops just to open up a business bank account. I designed a logo for my business. I chose a color palette, and I don't have any experience in graphic design or development, so I think I did pretty good on that. I built my website 3 times. I'm probably going to have to build a 4th one soon. I wrote terms of service for that website. I wrote a privacy policy for that website. And then, of course, while I was building that website, I realized how loosely defined my products and services and offerings were. So I had to tighten all that up. I made business cards, done that a couple times now. I made stickers. Come stop by afterwards. I'll give you guys a card and a sticker, or just a sticker if you want. Yeah, there we go. Accounting. I had to learn all about accounting. I'm still not very good at that. Bookkeeping, not very good at that either. But I had to learn a little bit about it. I stood up all the technology solutions for my company. So I had to decide, am I going to do M365 or Google Workspace? I'll just cut to the chase. The answer is M365. You can thank me later. I built out the rest of the tech stack for my business. Being a project manager by trade, I had to figure out what sort of project management platform I wanted to use. Did I want to use Asana? Did I want to use Hey? Did I want to use Monday? Did I want to use Jira? No. Did I want to use Microsoft Planner? Like, there's plenty of options out there. Did I want to use a PSA solution as a project management solution? No. I wrote the first pass on my contracts. And I wrote the service agreements using ChatGPT, and I can tell you more about that process if you want. I wouldn't recommend doing the final version with ChatGPT, but it'll get you about 80%. Again, I had to define all my products, my pricing, my rates. I had to do all the marketing. I had to do all the sales. You got to do the recruiting. I have had to do recruiting, believe it or not. I've done so much stuff that I forgot about what I forgot about. And most of these things are full-time jobs for people that are in larger established organizations. And guess what? I haven't even talked about yet. Anybody? The work. We haven't talked about the work at all. When I got into my business, or when I first started it, here's what I had in my little lizard brain. I was going to spend 80% of my time billing hours and 20% of the time working on the business. What do you think that's really looked like? Yep, flip that, just turn that right upside down. 80% of the time on the business, 20% of the time billing hours. That's the reality, particularly when you're first starting up. It was exactly the opposite of what I wanted, exactly the opposite of what I thought, but that's okay. You don't know what you don't know. But here's the second part of this that's not on the screen. When I say you have to do it all yourself, you should not do it all yourself. Full stop. You will reach a point where you identify things that you're not good at, or that you just plain don't want to do. You're going to figure out that you've created bottlenecks in your own business. The impediment to progress is you. And then you have to start getting help. Hopefully you've made a little bit of scratch by then and you can pay somebody. If not, you can go on Fiverr, Upwork, and try and find some help that way. Or I've been very fortunate, and again, I realize that I'm a little bit privileged here, but like I have a huge network, which I'm going to talk about later. I've been able to phone a friend for so many things, and part of that is because I've been willing to give away my time and my know-how for free to a lot of other people for a long time. And all of a sudden, when I got into a point where like I needed to call somebody and ask, hey, can you give me a little bit of a heads up on how you're doing your marketing or what you're doing for your email campaigns? 20 minutes later, I had them on the phone. When I needed to call somebody and say, hey, listen, I know you're an attorney, but you're not my attorney, but would you look at this contract and tell me whether I'm about to get myself in a lot of trouble? My attorney friend was willing to look at that for me. So again, like you plant these seeds now and they grow over time and it comes back and it definitely helps you later on. All right. Number 2, everyone is going to tell you what you should be doing. Nonstop. So as people start to learn a little bit more about what you're doing, there will be no shortage of folks coming out of the woodwork to tell you all about your business and tell you how to run it. They're going to tell you about the products and the services that you're offering, who you should be or that you should be offering. They're going to tell you who you should offer it to. So full disclosure, that's why I started Sanguine Career Services. Someone else told me that I should. How smart does that sound? So here's kind of the background on that. I was doing a ton of free mentoring and career coaching, and to be honest, it was kind of stressing me out. I was investing a ton of time and energy into helping folks out, but the only person that had any skin in the game was me. And I felt like I was getting taken advantage of a little bit. Let me stop here. Anybody else ever been in that situation? Yeah, I was having free unpaid mentoring calls to review people's resumes, and then they weren't showing up to it. Or I'd already reviewed their resume and they didn't show up to it. Or I'd send them feedback and never hear a word from them. Not that I necessarily went into it with the expectation that they were going to throw me some ticker tape parade when I got done doing this for them, but a thank you every once in a while would be nice. And so again, this was stuff that I enjoyed doing. I got a lot of satisfaction from, but the way I was interacting with people was stressing me out. And so I had a friend suggest, you should make a business out of this and start charging people for it. And then if they don't show up, that's on them because you've already gotten paid. And so I started down that path, even though my heart really wasn't in a career coaching business. And let me tell you, I wasted a ton of time and money and effort getting that business stood up and ready to go. And you know where it ultimately went? Nowhere. So let me tell you about the timing of this. I started building this out in late 2022, and I wanted to launch it in mid-2023. What did the job market look like in mid-2023? How many people were out there paying for career coaching? The entire business was dead on arrival. And so I wasted, like I said, thousands of dollars. And again, this whole business never really went anywhere. And it wasn't even the thing that I wanted to be doing to begin with. So again, you're going to have all sorts of people telling you what you should be doing. Now, here's the other half of this, or the other side of this coin. There's going to be no shortage of vendors or product folks out there that are wanting you to help sell their shit. Anybody here own a business that knows what I'm talking about? So you're going to start getting these emails and LinkedIn messages every single day, maybe 5 or 10 times a day, maybe 50 times a day like I'm getting right now. And they're going to want you to demo their product. And they're going to want to offer you an NFR license, which is not for resale. And then they're going to give you an opportunity to resell their stuff or to become a channel partner. Now, you can absolutely establish really good, genuine relationships with vendors that are mutually beneficial. In fact, I have several of them. But ultimately, what you have to keep in mind is they want you to sell their stuff. So be hyper aware of this and make doubly sure it's a good fit. The product needs to be something that aligns with what you want to do and the customers that you are trying to reach, and the terms need to be acceptable. And this can't distract you from the work that you really want to be doing. So here's a really good example. I've got a security training and awareness company that I know the CEO of. He's, I would say, better than an acquaintance, less than a friend. I don't know if that's a thing. Is there a name for that? Anybody? I don't know. Colleague. Maybe that's it. Anyway, super nice guy. He has tried to get me to sign up to be a reseller for his security awareness training several times. He has a minimum seat requirement of 500 seats. Most of my clients are small and mid-sized businesses. This isn't really a good fit. Reviewing the paper for him would be a waste of my time. And speaking of paper is a short term for the contract. Make sure you read through any paper that somebody sends you and read through it very, very carefully, because sometimes the terms and conditions of these things are wild. So I'm not going to put them on blast, because if anybody else here wants to go talk to them, they're going to see the same thing that I did. But there's a company that tried to partner with me a couple years ago called Coro. Anybody heard of Coro? They're not here, I don't think, but Coro's super nice people. I don't have any qualms with the folks that I worked with at Coro. However, they had this channel partnership agreement that they wanted me to sign. And part of that agreement said that I would give them the names of any prospects that I wanted to pitch Coro to, along with the names and contact information of any of my contacts or champions at those organizations. I'd personally introduce them to those contracts or those contacts. The representatives of Coro would be personally introduced by me, and I would take detailed notes during any call or meeting that I had with those prospects where I was discussing Coro, and provide those to Coro. So basically, I was going to be their secretary for free. And out of all this, they would pay me a 10% commission on the sale for the first year. Man, what great terms those were. I can't believe I didn't want to sign that. And again, that was a channel agreement. Maybe they've updated it since then. I'm assuming that they probably have. Reseller agreements are very similar. So a reseller agreement, you're a middleman, or you can be a VAR, a value-added reseller, if you have value to add. One thing that I would recommend that you do here when you're looking at reseller agreements is make sure that those customers remain yours and don't become theirs. Also, make sure that there's non-solicit language inside of those agreements to help make sure that those customers remain yours and don't become theirs. When you're a reseller, you want to be able to put all that paper on your name. You don't want to just turn over your customers to someone else that doesn't necessarily have any obligation to pay you. So, all right. It's number 2. You guys following along? Okay. Number 3. Holy smokes, this is one of my favorites. Focus on one problem to solve and solve it well. What I mean here is narrow down your scope. Focus on one thing, at least to start with. And make sure it's a problem that you actually know how to solve and that you're actually equipped to solve. Otherwise, you could have some issues. Now, I'm not saying you should only have to do one thing forever. But when you're starting out, you're going to have a whole lot to learn. We already talked about number 1. You got to do everything yourself. You might as well make some part of this easy. So a couple other things to do here. Ask yourself, is this product or service that I'm offering something that my prospective clients actually want to buy? It's a question that a lot of people don't ask themselves before they start businesses, and then their businesses fail because they're selling something that no one wants. Is the problem that I'm solving something that people actually want to solve? Am I offering something that people actually want to purchase? If not, your challenge isn't just going to be building this product or designing the service and putting together the processes and the team to provide it and market it and sell it, but you're also going to have to create a demand where one previously didn't exist. Now, there's lots of companies out there that have been super successful doing that. Like, there was no demand for the iPhone before there was the iPhone. People laughed at Apple for that. Like, they said it was going to be DOA. It was a non-starter. And now, like, probably 80% of us have iPhones in our pockets. So, like, this does work. But for every Apple, like, there's 1,000 failures. So set yourself up for success, or at least don't set yourself up for failure. So, again, understand if people are actually wanting and trying to solve your problem. Don't try to sell people things that they don't want to buy. I promise you that is a waste of time. There are plenty of prospects out there. Don't spin your wheels trying to convince people to buy things that they don't really want to buy because, like, they don't want to be convinced. So I gave this example to one of my partners probably, 3 or 4 weeks ago. So one of my ideal customer profiles is sole proprietors in the accounting space. I offer a FTC Safeguards compliance solution. And, like, here's the thing. I'm not going to go out and try and convince all these people to buy something that they don't want. The people that want to buy it, I'll sell it to them. The people that don't want to buy it, that's their problem and not mine. I could talk to every single accountant in the entire country. I could spend 10 hours a day talking to nothing but accountants for the next decade and not talk to all of them. There are plenty of fish in the sea. So understand where to invest your time and what is going to be a waste of time. And the thing that really helps here is define your ideal customer profile, your ICP. That's not Insane Clown Posse, folks. The other ICP. So find out who out there is trying to solve your problem. Who can you solve it best for? And who wants to work with someone like you? One of the things that helps here is called persona definition. Has anybody here ever heard of, like, sales personas? So it's basically you define what your buyer or your prospect looks like. So for me, one of my personas is John Smith. He's an accountant. He's a sole proprietor. His business is his primary source of income for his whole family. He's extremely busy for about half of the year. In fact, he probably wants to crawl in a hole and die right now because it's 2 weeks from the end of tax season. John needs 100% uptime from January 1 until the end of April. He cares about security because it helps protect his business and it keeps him compliant with the FTC safeguards regulations. That's John. I understand how to sell to John because I understand what John's problems are and I understand what John needs. So here's the last piece around solving these problems well, is if you're going to solve a problem, solve the whole problem, not just part of it. That was a really big lesson that I learned last year. In fact, that's the entire reason why I'm no longer doing Sanguine Security Solutions, which was just me. And now I have N2 Security, which is me and 2 partners. It was because in Q3 of last year, I pitched 5 deals. I pitched 6. And I lost 5 out of the 6. And that was a punch in the gut. And I knew that the reason why I lost those 5 that I didn't get is because I didn't solve the whole problem. In fact, 3 out of those 5, I'll tell you exactly what the issue was. It was people that had fully remote teams, and they had a lot of 1099 contractors that were working on BYOD devices. And they didn't know how to secure BYOD devices, and I didn't have a great solution for them. Like, I know how you do that. I'm just not the most technical person on earth, and I knew I wasn't equipped to do it. And so after I lost these deals, you know what I did? I went and found a partner that was equipped to do that and help me solve those problems. And in fact, since then, I've won 2 of those deals because now I have the capability to solve 100% of the problem and not just 75% of it. People are paying you to make it easy or simple for them. So make it easy or simple for them. People don't not do the right thing because they don't know any better or because they can't afford to. I mean, sometimes people do that, but generally speaking, the people that you talk to, they're not doing it because they don't want to. They're doing it because it's hard. Or they're not doing it because it's hard and it's time consuming. So if you can make it not hard and not time consuming, then you've got a much better chance of winning the business. So here's a perfect example of this. I got new tires for my truck a couple months ago. I called the first place to get a quote for tires and a 4-wheel alignment. It was $1,000 for the tires, but they didn't do 4-wheel alignments. I called the second place and they quoted me $1,100 for the tires and $200 for the 4-wheel alignment. And guess who got my business? The place that did everything for me. Even though I had to pay $100 more for the tires, I didn't have to take it to 2 places. And I got it done in one shot over my lunch break. I didn't have to drive all over town and try and mess with this. Make it easy and make it simple. All right, man, this is one that people probably aren't going to want to hear, but it's just kind of the reality. You're going to have to get good at sales. You're going to have to start selling. Full stop. This is unavoidable. Chances are your product or service is not going to sell itself. Even if it does, you're still going to have to market it and create some visibility and awareness out in the wild. So let me ask you this. I already know the answer, but play along with me here. You guys ever met somebody who owns their own business and it's fairly successful and you're sitting there talking to them, you're like, man, this guy's kind of a dumbass. Does that ever happen? You guys know this guy too? I know him. I know like 5 of him. Well, they may not be the sharpest crayon in the box, but I can tell you what they're probably good at, and that's sales. And that's why they have a successful business. If you're not willing to get your hands dirty with this, then you are almost certainly going to fail. Even top-notch products need someone to sell them. So think about what some of the best products and services are that are out there on the market today. Stuff that practically sells itself. I'll tell you about the example that I'm thinking of, something that they couldn't keep on the shelves during COVID. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Toilet paper. Everybody wipes their butt, I hope. Charmin is still making commercials for toilet paper. They've even got a little song. It's your Charmin Heine Clean song with some bears that have toilet paper stuck to their butts. This is a product that sells itself. They couldn't keep it on the shelf, and they still have commercials for it. So you are going to have to, at the very least, get moderately good or at least capable at sales and marketing. And no, I do not believe that you can outsource all this or just spin up an army of bots to do it for you and be successful. I don't care how many LinkedIn messages you get saying, I've got the B2B solution that's going to get you 20,000 leads next week. Yeah, bullshit. So how do you get good at sales? Well, that's an entire day's worth of conference sessions, but I'm going to give you guys three quick tips. So the first one is network. Meet as many people as you can and remember their names. Taylor, I'm sorry I forgot your name, but I remembered it after you told me, and I remember it right now. I don't know if you're in the room still, but Taylor, are you here? Dang, I met Taylor last year. I forgot his name. I broke the first rule. But yeah, meet as many people as you can. Remember their names. It's best to do this in person, but you can do it virtually if you have to. I've met hundreds, if not thousands of people. Well, I've met hundreds of people over the last probably 3 or 4 years over virtual coffee chats. 15, 20-minute calls on LinkedIn where you just say hi, get to know the other person. And the thing to keep in mind is networking is about planting seeds. You do that knowing that those seeds aren't going to bear fruit tomorrow, but if you plant enough seeds in enough places over time, you're eating. So keep planting those seeds because number 2, relationships are everything. So again, one of my biggest customer profiles or my target customer profiles is small to mid-sized credit unions. Well, I happen to know a CISO at a fairly large, 1,000 FTE credit union. His name's Ken. So I met Ken a couple years ago on LinkedIn. At the time, Ken was out of work and he was doing some networking of his own. We connected, had a couple coffee chats. I introduced Ken to a couple people that I knew in hopes of helping him in his job search. And here about a year ago, Ken ended up getting this CISO job at this credit union. Obviously, we stayed in touch over time. I ended up hitting Ken up a couple weeks back, not to sell him, but to ask Ken for advice. I walked him through my pitch deck to credit unions, and I asked him, do you think my product and my service offering makes sense? And do you think that this is buttoned up enough that I can go out and pitch this to other credit unions? So Ken gave me some feedback, and then you know what Ken asked me? He said, I know a couple CIOs at small credit unions. Do you want me to introduce you to them? Well, by golly, Ken, I sure do. I'd love for you to introduce me to them. Then the next thing he said is, I might need some help here too. I had conversations with Ken for no money, no benefit to myself, other than just to get to know him and to introduce him to some people to help him with his job 2 years ago. Those seeds that I planted then are bearing fruit today. The last thing here is it's not about you, it's about them. You're probably not going to sell much if you're always thinking about yourself. Selling isn't about you. Really, we should call it buying because it's about your customer. So think about it. What's going to be more successful? Building a marketing campaign around the things that you like? Or building a marketing campaign about what your prospects actually pay attention to? Should you talk about your capabilities and your approach and your background? Newsflash, nobody cares. You should focus on their situation, their problems, their aspirations, and their goals. Focus on them. Ask about them. Learn about them. That's what's going to build relationships. And people like to buy from people that they like. So keep in mind, when you start a business relationship, it's a lot like a real relationship. You're going to be in it for a while, particularly if you sign an agreement for 12 or 24 or 36 months. So these people are going to gravitate towards doing business that they like doing business with people that they like talking to and people that they like spending time with. And nobody likes spending time with someone that only talks about themselves and only thinks about themselves. So one last part here. If you're hearing all this and you're thinking, hey, this is never going to be me, I can never do any of this, then my advice, it's time to explore a partnership now with someone that's more outgoing, because that's going to be what helps you kind of get your foot in the door and helps you get lift off and get your first few clients. Number 5, and I know I'm running a little short on time here, but you got to get comfortable with rejection, very comfortable, because it's going to come from all angles. They're going to reject your product, your service, your company, your price, your timing, your sales pitch. They're going to reject you. And it's going to feel so personal. It's not personal. It's just business. And people that make it personal, you don't want to do business with. So there's something that's called the 10 by 10 by 10 rule in sales. Basically states that for every 10 calls you make, you should have one meaningful conversation. And for every 10 meaningful conversations you have, you are probably going to get one sale. So if you break that down, every 100 conversations converts into one sale. That's a 99% failure rate. 99% rejection. And that's the model for success.
Don't do those.
So you're going to have to get comfortable with this. Now here's the thing. Getting comfortable with rejection is so much easier said than done. So how do you do that? Practice. Talk about practice, man. Not a game. Practice. So get out there and take some swings. That self-doubt, that fear, negativity, that stuff is never going to go away. But you can choose what you interact with. Sorry. My mouse is working. Lost some items. Oh, my mouse is over on that screen. That's fine. All right. So, anybody seen the movie Beautiful Mind? Awesome movie. Russell Crowe, Ed Harris, Jennifer Connelly, they just kill it. It's based on this true story about a mathematician. Say that 5 times fast. His name's John Nash. He won the Nobel Prize. Super smart guy. He also had schizophrenia. He was delusional. He saw people that didn't exist. His best friend wasn't real. And he almost lost everything because he didn't stop believing. And he couldn't stop believing in those delusions, and he couldn't stop interacting with them. But eventually, through a lot of practice and time and support, he did. He conquered those delusions because he knew that they were in his head, and he chose whether he was going to interact with them or not. Now, at the end of the movie, this is one of my favorite things that I've ever seen in a movie. He's given this speech after he wins the Nobel Prize, and he's walking out with his wife. He's like 30 or 40 years older than the meat of the movie. And who's standing there but those 3 imaginary characters? Those delusions never went away. He just won the Nobel Prize. And those delusions were still there. And you know what? They all looked exactly the same as they had 40 years prior. They hadn't aged a day. Those same fears and those same doubts are always going to be there for you. But you get to choose how you interact with them. So make that choice. Am I going to let this fear dominate me, or am I going to just practice overcoming it? One thing that I do in my head, when I start to get negative self-doubts that come in, I just go, swipe left, goodbye. Some of you guys that are maybe a little bit younger than me know probably more about that than I do. But yeah, swipe left, you're out, I'm done. Those fears and doubts are always going to be there, but you choose what you interact with. All right. Next, you should give it away for free whenever you can. Now, this is probably more branding and marketing advice than anything, but give it away. Webinars, workshops, podcasts, speaking events, volunteering, anything that you can do to create visibility for yourself and the product and the service offering that you have, give it away. People love to think that they've developed some secret sauce and that they shouldn't share it. Chances are you don't have any secret sauce. You're not that smart, sorry. But very few of us have original ideas. There's probably half a dozen people that are already doing what you're doing. And even if you do have some super original, super creative idea, it doesn't really matter because it's not going to be a secret for long. You still need to get the word out if you're going to make any money. And as soon as the cat's out of the bag, people know about it. Your secret sauce isn't so secret anymore. People don't buy from you because you have the coolest solution or because you can do something that no one else does. They buy from you because you're solving a problem for them, and they don't have the time or experience to solve it themselves. Here's the thing. It's a big table. There's room for a lot of folks to belly up and eat at it. Like, think about the EDR space. Sentinel-1's here today, right? Is Sentinel-1 the only EDR solution out there? Nope. Is Sentinel-1 going broke because of CrowdStrike?
Or because of Huntress or Rapid7 or Arctic Wolf? No. These are big companies worth millions or probably billions of dollars right now. Thanks, Wes. Again, there's room for everybody to eat. The more that you give away, the more that you establish yourself as a credible source. People know that you're a credible source, and when they're ready to solve their problem, who are they going to go talk to? That credible source. Here's an example. I've probably written somewhere around 200 different policies and standards over the last couple of years, and I'm not exaggerating. I've made tens of thousands of dollars writing policies for people. I had someone in my network that reached out to me 2 weeks ago asking if I had any good language for a privacy policy. And I sent them a template of that I had for free. Could I have paywalled it? Absolutely. I could have. But he's a good dude. He's helped me out in the past. I value our friendship, and I value that friendship more than I value a couple $100. And I have a feeling that down the road, he's probably going to want to come and do business with me because we have a good relationship and he trusts me. Now, I'm not saying that you should work for free all the time. Know your worth. But be strategic. The things that you can give away, you should give away. All right, I know I'm really close to time. Joe, do I have a couple extra minutes? All right, cool, thank you. All right, you have to learn how to say no. You should have said no, Joe. What? All right, so this one really hits home for me. When you're starting something new and the creative juices are flowing, it's really easy to get caught up in exciting new ideas or opportunities. And it's honestly kind of flattering when people hit you up and they want to work with you. They start telling you how great you are, how much they love all the things that you're doing, blah, 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 blah. Listen, you should absolutely take advantage of those opportunities when they pop up, but remember that it's okay to say no. It's super easy to wake up one day and realize that you have too many irons in the fire, you have too many things going on, you have too many projects that are in flight and not enough that are crossing the finish line. You're getting caught up in everything but the stuff that is making you money. And sometimes getting distracted from the mission while trying to make a little bit of money. So, for example, last year I had a client of mine who wanted to talk about a CMMC compliance project. I'm sure plenty of you guys have heard a lot about the CMMC space recently. Yeah. I don't work in the CMMC space. I've worked in financial services almost my entire career. I've never worked for the federal government. I've never done anything with DOD. I know next to nothing about CMMC. But of course I said yes. Why wouldn't I do that? And you know what? I burned tons, and by tons I mean over 100 hours researching things about CMMC and figuring out all that I didn't know for him. And guess what ultimately happened? I didn't define the project very well because I wasn't very knowledgeable, or at least not as much as I should have been. I didn't pitch the project very well because I wasn't as confident as I should have been. And guess what? I didn't win the business. He went with someone else that worked in the CMMC space. Go figure. Maybe I should have said no. Maybe I should have stayed in my lane. Maybe I should have found someone to refer him to and built some goodwill with a partner. But I didn't do that. I chose to say yes when I should have said no. Now, on the other hand, I had another opportunity that got pitched to me a few months ago. Actually, this podcast, the Level Up and Lead podcast. Matt Trett wanted to start this podcast with me, and he was like, hey, this sounds super fun. I want to do this podcast with you. And I said, you know what, Matt, that sounds really fun. And I love being a guest on podcasts. And I don't know jack about producing podcasts myself. I don't know anything about audio or video recording or editing. All my ventures into learning things like that have been in headaches. And I don't really have the time to build a podcast or to build an audience or to market this. And so I told him no. Matt, I love the idea. I'd like to work with you, but I just don't have the capacity for this right now. And after about, 2 or 3 months of him kind of bringing it up again and again and again, he finally came back to me and he said, hey, Nick, how about this? I respect your time constraint. I respect your hesitation. I really want to do this project with you. What if I agree to handle all the recording, all the editing, all the scheduling, all the marketing, and you show up one night a week for an hour and record with me, and I'll let you own half of the podcast? Well, that sounds like something I can say yes to. So by saying no to things that didn't make sense for me, I was put in a position where I could say yes to something that did. All right, number 8. You either fail fast or you fail hard. And newsflash, you're going to fail. I know that's something that nobody wants to hear, but if you're starting a business, odds are that you're going to fail. It's not going to work out. Crash and burn. Most businesses end in failure. And by most, I mean somewhere between 65 and 80%. Most of those within the first 2 years. The odds are stacked against you. But failing does not mean game over. Here's what you got to remember. This is not like gambling, where the odds reset on each hand. Every business venture that fails gives you a better chance of success the next go around. Don't be scared to fail. Failure means you learned what doesn't work, or at least what's not going to work for you at this very moment. The key word there being is you've learned, and that's invaluable. I know so much more now than I did 3 years ago. Things that completely stressed me out then are huge nothing burgers for me today. But again, you want to fail fast. Learn to pick up on issues early and ask yourself, should I continue down on this path, or should I take what I've learned and pivot to something new? Now, a lot of people don't want to do that because they don't want to admit that they were wrong about whatever idea that they had, or they don't want to admit that they failed in executing on whatever it is that they wanted to do. They're worried about what other people are going to think about them. But man, the only people that are going to judge you are sitting in the cheap seats. The spectators. No one else that's actually on the field with you is going to give you a hard time about it. Who gets more worked up about a strikeout in baseball? The fans or the players? The players aren't in the dugout screaming. It's the fans that can't do it themselves. So there's a saying, I think it's been attributed to Denzel Washington, it could be Abraham Lincoln, it might be Spartacus, I don't know. But you'll never be criticized by somebody who's doing more than you are. It'll always be someone doing less. So remember that. But back to this topic at hand about failure. Remember when I said I was starting this career coaching business? Like, I ran into roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. So many things were not going my way. And I was doing it for a business I wasn't even that excited about. So meanwhile, I'm doing all this and the job market's going to hell in a handbasket. And I still wasn't ready to launch. And I didn't know what I was going to do and whether I was going to be able to make any money when I did launch. So I didn't. I shut it down. My business failed. And if it hadn't, I certainly would have dumped hundreds of more hours into it, thousands of more dollars, and I would have ended up in the exact same situation. I failed fast before I failed hard. I learned an easy lesson instead of a hard one. And you know what else I did? I took all the documentation that I developed and I reused it. That webpage for Sanguine Career Services became the first version of the webpage for Into Security. A lot of the problems that I'd solved along the way still existed for my next project. And now I had solutions for them and a lot of valuable experience that came out of that failure. And so I can look back on that fondly rather than bitterly. All right. Number 9, you're the boss. This one's super important. You're in charge. You're driving the car. People in the back seat might make a lot of noise, but your hands are the ones on the wheel. If you want to wear a pink Macho Man Randy Savage t-shirt to present at a security conference, you can because you're the boss. If you don't want to do business with a certain company because you think that they're kind of scummy, you don't have to because you're the boss. Again, you get to make the decisions. But on the flip side of that, you have to make the decisions. No one else is going to step up and do it for you because chances are there's no one else to do it. It's also up to you to be a leader. If you're going to have employees or even contractors working for you, you're going to have to be the leader and you're going to have to act the part. Meaning, if it's not something that you're willing or ready to take on, you have to account for that in your business model. Or you might be better served staying on as an employee. But you get to decide because you're the boss. All right, last, but certainly not least, you need to understand your why. So 6 months ago, this wouldn't have even been on my list. And now it's one of the most important things to me. ask yourself, why am I doing this? Why is this important to me? Because that should guide everything that you do. Are you just trying to make a bunch of money? Like, it's okay if that's the case. Profit's not a four-letter word. You know, or do you just want to be your own boss? Or do you really want to just do this type of work exclusively? What matters most to you? Understanding your why is going to help keep you pointed in the right direction. It's going to help keep you motivated to do hard things. And there's going to be plenty of things that are going to require a lot of motivation. It's going to make it easier to do sales and marketing because you believe in what you're doing. Why do I work in security? Because I believe in what we do. I believe security is a genuinely noble cause. I spent a lot of years building apps for other people to make a bunch of money that I didn't give a shit about. And then I started working in security and I was like, oh, we're protecting real people. We're keeping real critical services and infrastructure available. This is my summum bonum. It's my highest good. Speaking a little Latin in this Catholic church today. So why did I start my business? Because I was tired of being told what I could and couldn't do. I was tired of other people deciding what type of work I got to do and what type of money that I made. I was tired of inter-office politics. I was tired of brown-nosing and glare-handing. I was tired of dressing up for work every day. I was tired of the uncertainty, wondering, am I going to be next every time a round of layoffs started? And I kept meeting business owners that had control of their own destiny. And these people weren't all that much smarter or more hardworking than I was, but they all took a chance. And so I asked myself, why can't that be me? Well, why can't that be me? Why can't that be you? Well, that's the million-dollar question. Maybe literally. The answer is it can be you. And I hope it is, if that's what you want. I hope that you find all the success that you want and deserve. Because I believe that you can do it. And at 7 minutes over time, that's what I've got. 10 things I've learned from starting my own business. All right. Any questions?
No.
On that topic of like being comfortable with failure, I saw an interesting person when they said that they would go out of their way to ask for things that they expect rejection for, like a free dessert at a restaurant or something, expecting to like condition themselves to the failure so that, and once in a while they would get a free dessert or something at a restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
That helped them to like condition to like expect failure and be okay with it.
I love that. Fortune favors the bold. You'll never get something you don't ask for. So Olivia Rose, if any of you guys know who Olivia Rose is, she wrote a post probably 6 months ago or so, and I still remember it, obviously, because I'm talking about it. She said something about don't be afraid to get told no. Don't be afraid to ask for money. And when people tell you no, turn around and ask them, what would it take for you to say yes?
So right now this is your side hustle. It sounds like.
Yeah, kind of. I mean, I probably put 40 hours a week in my business.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, technically, I do not make as much money in Into Security as I make at Mutual of Omaha. Thank you, Mutual of Omaha.
So at what point does it become, are you moving towards it not being your side hustle? At what point?
Yeah, so ultimately, this is an answer that's going to be different for everybody. I can tell you what my answer is I've got a pipeline and a runway that I've built, and I've got projections on my pipeline on what my sales are going to look like in 6 months and a year. And once that hits a certain number, then I can make this my full-time job. I've got money in savings, I've got investments, I could liquidate some stuff, and I could hit the eject button now if I really wanted to, but I don't have to. Like I'm in a very fortunate position that 95% of my clients are off time zone, and I do that strategically because it allows me to have calls with them at 5 o'clock or 4 o'clock when my day at Mutual ends, or it allows me to have calls with them at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. before my day at Mutual starts, and then I don't have any conflict of interest with them. So if you have a time of day conflict, that's a piece of advice that I would give you is work off time zone as much as you can. Oh, sorry. Google Workspace does not have as many features and capabilities to stand up the world business in a secure manner as what Microsoft 365 is going to offer you. That's the simplest solution. Also, if you look at like other solutions that are out there on the market, more of them are going to integrate with M365 than are going to integrate with Google Workspace. So it's going to be a better long-term solution for you. And moving from one platform to the other down the road is going to be a pain in the ass, so you might as well just start where you're going to end up. My personal opinion. Anybody else?
I'll just have one more thing. You're talking about sales, and I like the way you kind of frame up sales. The way I kind of convey it is it's not about persuasion, which I think is where you were headed and how you were talking about it. It's really more about hunting or fishing, as it were.
Yeah.
And just finding there's tons of fish out there. There's tons of opportunity. You just have to find the right matches. So.
You were spot on. I read an analogy on that probably 6 months ago or so, but they basically said the exact same thing. Like, you should fish where the fish are. Like, if you go and fish in a pond that doesn't have any fish in it, then you're a dumbass. Like, you should go fish in a stocked pond if you know where the stocked pond is. So yeah, it's absolutely more like fishing than anything else. I guess not another hand. Yep, there we go.
So you talked about enjoying like doing resume reviews for folks, but not enjoying wasting time if they didn't show them the thing. Did you ever think about doing like a deposit thing where they deposit some and get refunded? Or that?
Yeah, I did. That was kind of how things started. Ultimately, it just wasn't what I wanted to be doing. And then when the job market kind of ended up where it ended up in 2023 and 2024, it wasn't worth my time anymore. And I knew that this career services venture was distracting me from the security consulting business, which is what I really wanted to be doing anyway. So I cut my losses. All right, I am getting the hook, guys. All right, hey, thanks so much. Appreciate it.